Good evening, students. Welcome to the third part of chapter number 4, Working of Institution. In the previous videos, we have seen that official memorandum was passed by the government, and it was on the recommendation of Mandal Commission, whose head was VP Mandal, and they were the second backward class commission appointed by the government in 1789, and they were given the work to identify the social and backward classes in society and the steps to be taken for their upliftment. Then thereafter Lok Sabha elections came, and in that election manifesto Janata Dal promised that if they will voted to rule, then they would be implementing the report of Mandal Commission, and thereafter it attracted the majority and they secured the maximum votes and formed the government. Once they formed a government, they took the work of implementing the Mandal Commission report seriously, and after through a process of series, through a system, through a involvement of different functionaries, it was financially made as a law. But then there were two communities. The national unity was hampered, and people were divided in two basis. One category was the category of those people who were in favor of that act, and second one was who were in against. So there was a widespread protest, and people were not satisfied, and they wanted the government. They wanted that the reservation should be declared as invalid, because they thought that on their part it was a disadvantage for them, as they won't be able to claim for that 27% of reservation quota because they didn't belong to that SEBC category. Now the question is, who will settle the dispute? Now, due to governmental action, controversy is there. Dispute has already taken a different phase. It has turned into a violent phase. Now who will settle the disputes? So in the next topic we will be uh, learning about that who finally settle the disputes. Supreme Court and High Court in India settle disputes arising out of governmental decision. So it's a common fact known to everyone that there are three organs: legislative, executive, and judiciary. The work of the legislative is to make laws, second, executive, to implement those laws which are already made by the legislative organ, and judiciary has the responsibility of checking up whether those rights are implemented in the right direction or not, and if there is any conflict, the Supreme Court and High Court are there to settle the disputes. In the same way, due to governmental decisions, if there is any controversy, if there is any dispute because of the governmental decisions, then also Supreme Court and High Court take the charge of settling the disputes. Some persons and associations opposed to this order filed a number of cases in the court. So the people who were not happy, were not satisfied with the recommendation given the Mandal Commission, they filed number of cases in the court. The Supreme Court, being the supreme authority, bunched all the cases together, and it named the case as Indra Savne and others versus Union of Indian case. So finally, the case was given a particular name, and it was named as Indra Sahne and others versus Union of India case. And in this sitting, 11 judges of Supreme Courts were there who heard the arguments of both the parties. One side, people the favoring this was there, and the other side, people against it were there. The 11 judges of Supreme Court heard the arguments of both the parties. By a majority, the Supreme Court judges in 1992 declared that the order of the Government of India was valid. So, after hearing both the arguments of both the parties, it was finally declared by Supreme Court in 1992 that the order of the government was valid. There was nothing wrong in that decision, and the decision was somewhat right, and that therefore it will be considered as valid only in place of being considered as invalid. At the same time, the Supreme Court asked the government to modify its original order. The only thing Supreme Court asked was to make some changes in the original order. Now, what was the change? It said that well-to-do persons among the backward classes should be excluded from getting the benefit of the reservation. Now, they have taken a very good issue that although the it won't be considered as invalid, but the only modification required is that the people who are well to do, who are having money and who can afford education and who can, represent them in the forefront, they will be excluded from this reservation, and only the people who are in genuine need of this reservation will only be benefited from this reservation. जो लोग ICBC में आते हुए भी लेकिन दे आर वेल टू डू, उनकी फैमिली अच्छी है, उनका स्टेटस सही है, उन लोगों को बेनिफिट नहीं मिलेगा, बल्कि उन लोगों को मिलेगा जिनको उनकी जेन्युइनली क्या है, ज़रूरत है. तो ये एक मॉडिफिकेशन उसमें किया गया था. Accordingly, the Department of Personnel and Training issued another office memorandum on 8 September 1993. तो जो 13 अगस्त 1990 को ऑफिशियल मेमोरेंडम निकला था, उसमें मॉडिफिकेशन करने के बाद जो एक नया ऑफिशियल मेमोरेंडम पास हुआ था, डेट वॉज पास्ड इन द ईयर 8 September 1993. The dispute thus came to an end and this policy has been followed since then. और फिर ये जो डिस्प्यूट था वो ख़त्म हो गया था और तब से ये पॉलिसी जो है ये फॉलो हो रही है. दिस वे वी सी दैट वेन एवर देर इज़ अ डिस्प्यूट ड्यू टू गवर्नमेंटल एक्शंस और गवर्नमेंटल डिसीजन, वी हैव सुप्रीम कोर्ट एंड हाई कोर्ट who take the charge of settling the disputes and keeping the situation calm. So in this case, official memorandum was passed, and when the people were not satisfied with the decision, they went against the government decision, filed a case in the High Court. High Court then the supreme authorities with the Supreme Court. Supreme Court took charge of it. They heard both the parties, and finally it was decided the office memorandum, it was not at all invalid, only some modification has to be done, and finally after the modification it was finally passed on 8th of September 1993. So this way we see so many functionaries are involved, right from the making of the decision to settling the disputes. So many functionaries are involved, and we have to understand that each and every functionary involved in this process is of utmost importance. We cannot neglect either party, because everyone somewhere or the other has an important role to play in the decision making. So in the next video we will see what is the need of these political institution, why do we need a parliament, what is the need of parliament, what are the two houses of parliament. Thereby we will read about prime minister, president, council of ministers, different cabinet ministries. Everything will be read in the coming slides.